most versatile prospect?
It's Deni Avdija. He's also the best international prospect in this draft.
Excuses, or you can figure it out. Choose the battle. What? 3.
Greatest leader in sports.
Portland was 21 wins and dead last in the Western Conference just 18 months ago as a complete laughingstock. But today, they have a player averaging 25.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 6.2 assists while shooting 47.4% from the field.
He can really play anywhere from point guard to power forward. Has the size of kind of a traditional power forward, but you'll see him take it in transition, the bounce passes through tight windows.
With a net rating of plus 19.7, which ranks 3rd in the entire NBA, trailing only Giannis and Shai. And the Washington Wizards gave up on him after 4 years, calling him a bust.
Scores! Outside Lillard, a 3 got it. Damian Lillard will bring it out of backcourt. Up first into the lane.
And wait until we see the exact stat comparison proving he's already matching prime Damian Lillard's all-star numbers at a younger age. The Trailblazers jumped 15 wins and went 23-18 down the stretch when everyone expected them to tank, and somehow they're still nowhere near their ceiling, because if we think Portland is still a bottom feeder, then we haven't been paying attention. And the answers are in the transformation, starting with the player Washington completely abandoned.
118-115.
Damian Lillard.
The offensive rebounding of the Nuggets, 9 offensive rebounds. He pays with the Nuggets. Another one.
When Portland traded for Deni Avdija, nobody saw this coming because he was supposed to be a solid role player, a versatile wing who could defend, make the right pass, and stay out of the way. And Washington had 4 years to unlock his potential, but completely gave up on him while writing off the 9th overall pick from 2020 as a disappointing bust. Something changed the moment he put on that Blazers jersey, because in his first season with Portland, Avdija posted career highs across the board with 16.9 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 3.9 assists, which were promising numbers but nothing that screamed future star. And then the second half hit. Over Portland's final 41 games, Avdija absolutely exploded with 22.1 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 4.7 assists, while the Blazers went 23-18 with Deni as the engine driving everything. And this season, he's taken it even further by averaging 25.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 6.2 assists on elite efficiency. He's shooting 47.4% from the field with a true shooting percentage of 63.7%, which ranks 8th in the entire league among high-volume scorers, and his net on-off rating is a staggering plus 19.7. But here's where it gets absolutely ridiculous, because he's 3rd in the NBA in and ones, trailing only Giannis Antetokounmpo and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Against Oklahoma City, he dropped a 31-point triple-double with 19 rebounds and 10 assists while becoming the first Israeli player in NBA history to record one. And over his last 5 games, he's averaging 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 9.2 assists, which isn't just a breakout. This is a legitimate star being born right in front of our eyes. Here's some perspective that makes this even more impressive, because in Damian Lillard's age 25 season, when he made the All-Star team and finished 8th in MVP voting, Dame averaged 25.1 points, 4 rebounds, and 6.3 assists, and that was his star-making campaign that established him as a franchise cornerstone. Deni Avdija is 24 years old right now, and he's already matching those exact numbers. And unlike Dame in 2016, Avdija has got legitimate help around him, which is what makes Portland's situation so fascinating, because they didn't just stumble into a breakout player through luck. They built a complete system around him, surrounded him with complementary pieces, and gave him the freedom to become what Washington never believed he could be. And the Wizards traded away a future all-star, while Portland might have found their next franchise cornerstone. But Avdija's emergence doesn't happen in isolation. The Blazers built something real around him, starting with a 7'2" monster who's rewriting the rules of rim protection and keeping them competitive despite horrific shooting. Many mock drafts had Donovan Clingan going top 3 because because the 7'2" UConn product was a two-time national champion, a dominant rim protector with old-school post skills and a motor that never quits, and teams at the top desperately needed a center, so Clingan was supposed to be gone before Portland ever got a chance. Somehow he slid, and at pick 7, the Blazers didn't hesitate to grab him, but the early returns weren't pretty because Clingan started his rookie season buried behind DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams III with inconsistent minutes, and for a player many thought would start immediately, it looked like Portland was content to let him develop slowly. Then came a specific game against Denver when in a blowout loss, Clingan came off the bench and dropped 21 points and 7 rebounds in just 21 minutes. And the very next game, he was in the starting lineup and never came out because Clingan started the final 27 games of his rookie season, averaging 8.8 points, 9.9 rebounds, 1.8 blocks, and 1.8 assists in 25.3 minutes. He didn't just earn the starting job, he made it impossible to take away. And this season, he's been even better by averaging 10 points and 10.2 rebounds per game while swatting 1.7 blocks per night. But here's the stat that jumps off the page and explains everything about Portland's competitiveness. He's second in the entire NBA in offensive rebounds with 97 total at 4.6 per game, with only Steven Adams barely above him at 4.8. And here's why that matters so much, because Portland ranks dead last in three-point percentage at 33%. They're shooting terribly from deep, and yet they're staying competitive in games. Clingan's offensive rebounding is single-handedly keeping them in games they have no business winning. And in one game against Chicago, he grabbed 10 offensive boards and created 15 second chance points while Portland won by 1 possession. But it's the defensive end where he truly transforms this team, combined with the $90 million bench scorer nobody's talking about. Portland finished last season with a top 3 defense over their final 41 games, and that's not a coincidence because Clingan anchors everything. And last year, he led the NBA in contested shots per 36 minutes at 17.6, while finishing 5th in blocks per game, and his presence alone changes how opposing teams attack the paint. When Clingan is on the floor, drivers think twice before attacking, floaters get altered, and easy buckets completely disappear because he's not just a good young center, he's becoming the defensive anchor this franchise has needed for years. And at 21 years old, Clingan is already one of the most impactful big men in the league. But defense doesn't win games by itself because we need firepower. And Portland found it in the most unexpected places, including a $90 million man coming off the bench. Because let's start with Shaedon Sharpe, who was the 7th overall pick in 2022 and one of the biggest mysteries in draft history. He committed to Kentucky, never played a single game there, and still went in the top 10 with teams betting on pure potential. And 3 years later, Portland locked him into a 4-year, $90 million extension. And here's why that investment makes complete sense. Sharpe is averaging 21.3 points per game this season while doing it entirely off the bench. So the Blazers have a $90 million 6th man dropping 21 points per game, and he recently exploded for 35 against New Orleans while playing 30-plus minutes and maintaining his bench role at just 22 years old. He's already in elite company as one of only 4 teenagers ever to record 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists in a game, and the other 3 were LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Luka Doncic, which is the kind of depth that changes everything about how teams have to prepare for Portland. Then there's Drew Holiday, who when Portland traded for him this summer, most people assumed he'd be a veteran mentor providing steady leadership, but instead he's having one of the best offensive seasons of his career. But here's what makes this truly dangerous going forward, because Scoot Henderson hasn't even returned yet and Damian Lillard is coming back next season. Holiday is averaging 16.7 points and 8.3 assists per game with one of his highest marks since his Pelicans days while shooting 38.2% from three-point range on a career-high attempt rate. And over his last few games, he's dropped 27, 24, and 22 points on elite efficiency because the 2-time champion didn't come to Portland to coast. Jeremy Grant has found new life as a super 6th man while leading the league in bench scoring. Toumani Camara is an all-defensive caliber forward who terrorizes opposing wings. And Robert Williams III recently put up 14 rebounds and 5 blocks in a spot start when Clingan went down. This isn't a team with 1 or 2 good players surrounded by filler. This is a roster with legitimate options at every position. And when injuries hit, they don't collapse, they adapt. And here's what makes this even more dangerous going forward. Scoot Henderson hasn't even returned yet because the third overall pick from 2023 is recovering from a hamstring injury. But before going down, he showed flashes of stardom, including a 39-point eruption and averaging 14.2 points over his final 35 games last season. Donovan Clingan is 21 years old and already one of the most impactful defensive centers in the league. And if he keeps developing, they've got an elite two-way anchor for the next decade, while Shaedon Sharpe is dropping 21 off the bench. And if his efficiency improves even slightly, we're looking at a 25-point scorer in his prime. And then there's the wild card nobody's talking about, because Damian Lillard is coming back next season as the franchise's all-time leading scorer, the man who carried this team for over a decade. And by 2026 to 2027, Portland could have Dame, Avdija, Clingan, Sharpe, and a healthy Henderson all on the same roster. If everything clicks, and that's a massive if, Portland has a legitimate path to the play-in this season, and by next year, they could be fighting for a real playoff spot, because for the first time in years, Portland isn't just hoping to improve, they're expecting to compete. Here's the context that matters, because Portland hasn't made the playoffs since 2021, with 4 straight years of lottery picks and rebuild mode, and the franchise bottomed out, traded away its franchise player, and started over from scratch. But this isn't the same team that dealt Damian Lillard anymore. This is a franchise with an identity, a rising all-star in Avdija, a defensive anchor in Clingan, and a young core that's finally starting to believe in something real. Now here's the real question we're asking you. Can Deni Avdija actually make the all-star team this season based on his production? Or will he get overlooked because Portland isn't winning enough games yet and the Western Conference guard spots are too competitive? Drop your answer in the comments, because this defines whether individual excellence matters more than team success for all-star voting. If you think Portland is a sneaky playoff team by next season, when everyone gets healthy, hit that like button, subscribe, because we're breaking down the young cores nobody's paying attention to. Catch you in the next one. Peace.